report card pickup day, so I decided to come down
Oh, nice.
for the tour and stuff. Yeah.
What's your
What's your
name?
name?
Sorry.
Leighton.
Leighton. Are you a junior or a senior?
Senior.
Senior. Cool. Are you applying currently?
Yeah, I'm working through applications right now.
Nice. What are you interested in studying?
I was interested in like a pre-med track, but like probably majoring in like psychology,
Nice.
and then a minor in French.
Cool. You actually weirdly touch on all three of our, I feel like all three of our things. Okay, so we'll just start off to introduce ourselves a little bit. So I'm Grace. I'm a senior. Would it feel better to come closer to us
Sure,
so it
yeah.
feels kind of more conversational? We did have a few more people signed up today. However, I think that they might have been scared away from the cold. But being from Chicago, I feel like you're not as scared away from the cold.
It's a little better here.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Oh, has it snowed yet in Chicago?
Yeah, a lot actually.
Oh, jeez, that's
Yeah.
We've been through one snow
Yeah,
day.
I'm ready for
And
spring
I was
already.
like,
Yeah, so I'm Grace. I'm a senior. I am a BBB major, which means the biological basis of behavior, which
Okay.
is kind of like psychology, but more on the neuroscience end, kind of. I am also double minoring in medical sociology and health services management, which are also two pretty popular minors with pre-med.
Okay.
I am from Chantilly, Virginia, so I'm just over in DC. And then outside of Cogno, I do theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Fernanda. I'm a sophomore. I'm doing communications with a concentration in messages and marketing, and then I just decided to do a minor in design this year and consumer psych. I'm from Mexico, like right up north, and outside of Cogno, I'm involved in. So I'm a writer for 34th Street magazine. I'm in the Daily Pennsylvanian, which is our newspaper, and that's pretty much it.
I'm a biochemistry major, getting a master's in the 4 years
What's
as
your
well.
name?
I'm Jonathan. Sorry, I'm Jonathan. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a biochemistry major, getting a master's in the 4 years. I'm a senior. I'm a pre-med student, so I could talk to you more about that. Grace was formerly a pre-med student,
Former
so
pre-med.
we could tag team and answer those questions. I took quite a few psychology courses. I found the positive psychology department at Penn is amazing because I don't know if you're familiar with Angela Duckworth. She wrote the book Grit. She did a lot of research in Chicago public schools about what traits led to more students to have successful academic careers and not, and then a lot of it was on grit, perseverance, and positive psychology, which is not something I know you might be familiar with, but it's a field of psychology which I find is super cool, and it's great because Angela Duckworth, who's one of the most forefront leaders of that field, teaches here, and also Martin Seligman, who was the former head of the American Psychology Association and the founder of positive psychology, also teaches here. So it's a great wealth of resource.
We're
in
very
that,
positive here.
great wealth of resource in that front, especially in the psychology field. So I love it. I took advantage of a few of those courses. I think it's something that shaped my view of how I view things a lot because it's all about mindset. It's all about how you view things. So I thought it was great. Anyways, more on topic. Outside of classes in Cogno, I do a lot of research. I do work in a dermatology epigenetics lab. I am part of the college EMT group here. I work in a few global health clubs and I tutor in West Philly.
Okay, so before we get started, obviously this is a smaller group than we
Yeah.
usually have, although I have done a presentation for one person before, so this isn't completely abnormal, but we do try and tailor this as much as possible, and especially because we only have you today, we can try and skip over some things that you may not be interested in, and kind of talk more about the things that you are interested in. But what would help us a lot is just if you have questions at any time, you don't even need to raise your hand. Just blurt it out, and we'll
Okay.
kind of go from there and tailor it from there.
Yeah, let us know. If we're
Yeah.
talking about something for a while, you're I don't really care.
Yeah.
Just let us know.
Yes.
It's really informal, and
Yes.
we're students who are at Penn, but we have lives outside of just classes. If you want to ask about what life or social life is at Penn, you could ask us about that. How
Yeah.
Philly's you can ask us about that because none of us are from Philly, and even the application process. If you have questions about that, feel free to ask.
Yeah, and we're not affiliated with admissions either, so
Okay.
we're not passing off questions. Yeah. Okay.
But this is a brief overview of what we'll be talking about. We're, again, to emphasize, we're students from the College of Arts and Sciences. So, obviously we'll touch about nursing, engineering, and what in a little bit because it's all part of the Penn campus, but we're specifically talking about that curriculum, those resources, etc. We'll be talking about like the requirements. Like this may seem like a lot, but we'll break it down for you in terms of classes, sector requirements, and things like that. Advising is basically like all the different places you could get help here, like how you can form relationships with professors, all the different advisors you have, things like that. Integration of knowledge is basically how you further your education outside of the classroom, like extracurricularly, or through a lot of different avenues. And finally, life after Penn, what it looks like as a Penn graduate. Grace and I are seniors, so maybe we'll have a little bit more to say about that. And homecoming weekend was last weekend, so I got to meet a lot of people who just graduated, which is maybe we'll have things
Wild.
to say, but
Wild.
that's like really far from like where you are.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So,
like
yeah.
scarily close for us, and for you, it's like miles away.
4 years
Yeah.
feels like a long time in college.
Okay, so what is your graduating class? Do you know?
2020 or for college.
What? Yeah. How big is your high school right now? Is
High
what
school,
I mean, sorry.
4,000 students.
Okay, wow, so that's kind of big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of came from something comparable, but not quite that big. I had 675. But I was coming in, I was kind of like a little, I wasn't sure what kind of size school I wanted because I felt like I was coming from a bigger school, so I was wondering if, you know, like a smaller school was kind of better for me. And you can kind of see our stats up here in terms of the college itself. We're 2/3 of the entire undergraduate body. 6,400 total, 1,500 freshmen. But for me, I was like, oh, maybe I want a smaller school so I can really get to know people. But I actually found that it's been really nice to have kind of, it's very medium sized. You know, it's not too big, not too small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Penn, undergrads in general, but also like the college, it feels very nice because you can walk up and down Locust, and like when you find your niche and like your people here, when you walk up and down Locust, you will always find that you're saying hi to someone, or you're, you know, like stopping and having like a 40-minute conversation in the middle of Locust. But also, I'm glad that I didn't go to too small of a school because you can definitely just like avoid people if you need to. You know, walking up, you know how to like. There are enough people here that you don't have to see people you don't want to see. So that's been really nice for me to have. And then there are 2,000 courses, a lot of majors, a lot of minors, and those can kind of fluctuate in any given semester, any given year, depending on what students we have here. So, for example, smaller majors, if there's just nobody with that major coming in, then that major may not be there for a little bit, and then it may come back, so it fluctuates.
Yep. And the numbers you see there, 2,000 courses, 55 majors, 80 minors, all that fluctuates year to year, and we actually have a huge input in deciding that. So if there's a course that isn't currently offered at Penn, and you're interested in getting started, you can add a course. It would be 2001.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So
cool.
all you need is you just get like a group of students who are interested in taking this course, and like find a professor who's interested in teaching, talk to the Penn, and then they'll open that course as soon as next semester for you. So I know people are trying to get us a few ABCS courses, which I'll talk about more later, open, and I know people who, like, especially in the language department, they're really open to doing this. Like, I have a friend who was like interested in studying Punjabi. He's from India, and well, his family's from India, and then it wasn't offered at Penn at the time. He talked to we got a group of friends who are interested in studying Punjabi as well, the language. He talked to Penn, and then they flew a professor over, a visiting professor, and now Punjabi is offered all 4 years at Penn. So it's a great thing, and especially with the language department, there's over 50 languages offered, so you do have a lot of say in like designing or like getting your courses implemented, which is pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah.
One thing I will say about that is it's not super common just because we already have so many courses that it's kind of difficult to pinpoint places that Penn doesn't already offer topics and
Yeah.
courses about. But yeah, definitely it does exist.
Yes.
All right. So as part of our curriculum at Penn, we all have to kind of take courses that have to do with our general education requirements.
Welcome.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're
We're on
good.
a tour.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a smaller group, we kind of already introduced ourselves, but we just want to get to know like your names, where you're from, where you're interested in studying at Penn, perhaps, just so we could like tailor it a little bit more to your interests. Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I'm Matt. I'm from São Paulo, and I would like to study either economics at Wharton or math at either engineering or at College of Arts and Science.
I'm Hugo, I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm interested in doing a major in economics or political science.
Awesome. Awesome. And all that you've missed is Cambridge History Facts. This is just kind of the general overview of the college in terms of how many students we have. So it's 1,500 first years, 6,400 total College of Arts and Sciences. It's kind of a nice even mix. You'll always know people walking up and down Locust, but it doesn't feel too big that you have to get stuck seeing the same faces over and over again. And then we have a ton of classes, 2,000 courses, 55 majors, 80 minors. Those will fluctuate given a few different kind of, what students are interested in studying. So you can also kind of petition to the university to include new courses. The most common way to go about doing that is within foreign language courses, albeit you can, there are other avenues, but if you're interested in studying a certain language that Penn doesn't offer, they will work to find a professor to bring in and a course kind of material to come in and they'll offer the class. And then in terms of just introductions real quick, I'm Grace.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
I'm Grace, I'm a senior. I am studying the biological basis of behavior, which is basically neuroscience, with a double minor in health services management and medical sociology. I am from a town just outside of Washington, D.C., and outside of Cogno, I do theater. Hello.
I'm Fernanda. I'm a sophomore studying communications with a concentration in messages and marketing. I'm also doing a minor in design and consumer psychology. I'm from Mexico, so just up in the north, and outside of Cogno, I'm involved as a writer in 34th Street Magazine, the Daily Pennsylvanian, which is our newspaper, and Word on Latino, which is our Latino Student Association.
I'm Jonathan. I'm a senior. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I study biochemistry. I'm getting a master's in the 4 years in chemistry as well. So if you're interested in any of those accelerated science or dual degree programs like that with the grad school, let me know. I'm a pre-med student, so if you're interested in that, I know he is, and feel free to ask questions about that throughout. Outside of Cogno, I do research. I'm involved in the college EMTs group here. I am involved in a few global health clubs, and I tutor kids in West Philadelphia. So general overview, we started a few times. I'm sorry, thank you for the patience. It's really informal. We give this presentation a lot of times. So the most exciting part is getting new questions from you guys or listening to your feedback. So feel free to interrupt us at any time. We love to get your questions and things like that. And also, we are not affiliated with the admissions process. So if you ask questions or you're afraid oh maybe they'll be taking notes on what we say, not at all. We don't know how the admissions process works entirely, and we're not affiliated with them at all, so don't worry about that. We're just trying to get you guys acclimated with what college at Penn is like.
We didn't catch your name. Do you mind sharing who you are, where you're from, what you're interested in studying?
I'm Zach. I'm from Tamaqua. If you know Allentown, it's an hour away from there.
Nice.
I'm interested in biochemistry.
Alright. Cool.
Okay. So
All right. So we were talking a little bit about our curriculum, and as Penn students, we all kind of have to take classes pertaining to our general education requirements, our major, and we also have to take free electives. So we do like to say that this kind of depends on each student. So we like to say that the bubbles kind of change depending on what you want to study. So for example, if you do want to double major, which it is pretty common if you want to do that, your major bubble would be a little bigger because you would be taking more classes pertaining to your major. But if you do also just want to explore courses, you do have a lot of leeway to do that with our free electives. And I do like to say that a lot of courses sort of overlap. So for example, when I came in, I was thinking about doing a completely different major, and I only basically took classes pertaining to that during my freshman year. And then when I switched to my other major, I was actually able to count most of those classes for my general education requirements, which was nice. Now about our classes, 95% of all our classes are taught by faculty, and a lot of people ask about the remaining 5%. We have a lot of visiting professors. So we had, for example, Joe Biden teach a couple of courses last semester. We had Ed Rendell,
Former mayor of Philadelphia and governor of Pennsylvania. Sorry, I'm a little sick.
he teaches a class on how to get elected and why, which is really great for election season. It's taught every single fall semester, so right now. And I have a few friends taking it. They love it. So generally the visiting professors are people who are experts in their field. They're not like tenured faculty members here, but they count towards the 5% who are not like faculty members.
And also 75% of all our classes have less than 25 students, which is really nice because you actually get to interact with your professors. Now, we do have a lot of introduction courses that are bigger, so we do have courses with a couple hundred students. But it's nice because even in those courses, you have smaller sections of classes we call recitations, which are essentially you have a couple of students from that big class, and you get to meet with a TA and discuss things that may not have been clear to you in lecture.
Yep. And even in those bigger introductory courses like intro to econ, intro to math, intro to chemistry, intro to physics, things like that, you kind of expect a larger class size. But my first class at Penn was actually intro to physics mechanics with Professor Klein, and like starting from day one, I was a scared freshman. He started cold calling people by the first name. So it'll be something like, "Hey Zach, what do you think about this? Hey Hugo, is that your name?"
Yeah.
I want to say it right. Like, what do you think about this? And I was like, how does he know these people? And then day two, he called on my name. He's like, "Hey Jonathan, what do you think about this?" And it turns out that weeks before class started, he like had everyone's class roster of over 100 people with their face and their name, and memorized everyone's face and their name associated with it, so he could like really get to know all the students. And that's not an isolated case. A lot of professors here really try to do that. And I thought it was like just a really good way to get acclimated because I was a scared freshman. I'm scared of authority, so the professors really put emphasis on getting to know the kids. So that was really nice.
Yeah, and another thing I always like to mention is that when we talk about the 75% of all classes, there is also a specific class type that I like to talk about that is, I think, very specific to Penn and is very unique. So there's a class type called SAIL courses at Penn, and with these courses, you are rather than being in a classic kind of lecture hall like we're in now, you're in a room just with a bunch of tables, and you're at tables with classmates, and you learn the same information that you would have in that classic kind of lecture style course. However, once or twice a week, your professor will hand out a worksheet to work on with people in your class, and at your table specifically. So if you're in a STEM course, like I took it in with physics, it would be kind of more of a problem set. If you're in more of a humanities-based course, it would be kind of a discussion-based worksheet, and basically you work through it and kind of you get a more hands-on utilization with the material you're learning in class. And it was and is, because I'm currently also in a SAIL course, very beneficial to me as a student to be able to have that time in class to go over that material right after we learned it.
Any questions so far about anything we covered?
And another thing, if you're pre-med, pre-law, pre-vet, anything kind of in that vein, a lot of those classes that would relate to those pre-graduate school kind of application processes, they would go toward free electives because Penn doesn't really have those as actual majors. And so any courses that you take for those prereqs that wouldn't go toward a major requirement or a general education requirement would then go toward free electives. Okay, so we're going to start with the first part of our general education requirements. These are the sectors of knowledge. We kind of like to think of these as buckets of knowledge that Penn likes to have its undergrads and specifically its college students have before sending them off into the world. So if you'll look, you'll see that there are 7 requirements. They're very broad and they kind of range many different fields. I personally come in, I was very much a neuroscience STEM kind of person, and I will say the history and tradition, it's not my favorite. I don't love history and tradition, so I was a little bit apprehensive about what I was going to take, and I should say that in any given semester there are about 15 to 20 courses that fulfill any one of these sectors. So the nice thing for me is that there are also classes like history of medicine, which is kind of more tailored toward the STEM, but it still does fulfill the history and tradition sector. And then on the flip side, also for humanities, you can take courses like linguistics that will fulfill more of the STEM-based requirements. So it's a kind of a give and take, and you do have a lot of kind of leeway in how you fulfill these sectors. And then another thing that's really nice about these is even if you come in knowing what you want to study, but especially if you don't, these can be a really nice way to figure out courses at Penn and kind of start your path on what exactly you want to major in or what you want to minor in. So I came in knowing I wanted to study neuroscience, but I wasn't sure about what I wanted to minor in. So I took Intro to Sociology my freshman spring, and through that class, I actually found my medical sociology minor, and I've loved it so far. So that has been really nice for me. But another cool thing about that class is that it also double counts. So if you could go to the next slide. So the bottom 4 of our next general education requirements all operate in a similar fashion to the sectors, in that in any given semester, 15 to 20, maybe even more classes will count for them. So the nice thing is that these bottom 4 can sometimes double count with one of the sectors, with one of the sectors of knowledge. So as an example, that sociology class that I was talking about, it fulfilled the society sector, but it also fulfilled the cultural diversity in the United States. So it may seem like a lot of requirements, but actually Dean DeTurk, who was the former dean of the college, did a survey and found that students typically fulfill all of the general education requirements in 7 to 9 courses, so it's not too bad.
Yep. So we're talking about requirements. Moving on to foundational, writing and foreign language are a little bit different, and I know we have a few international students here, so like I'll talk about foreign language first. So foreign language at Penn, normally you're required to take 4 semesters of a language, so that sets you up really well because that takes you through freshman and sophomore year normally. So junior year, if you want to study abroad, you could do that. It sets you up nicely. Although like a lot of people have previous experience with languages, like either through AP, IB courses or SAT2 courses, or they're just from a country that speaks that language. So you could come to Penn like the first week and then talk to the language department professors and get those test out of all of the semesters or some of the semesters for the language requirement. For example, I speak Chinese at home, so they don't take AP Chinese as a testing out requirement, but I just came the first week of classes. I did a simple speaking, reading, writing test with the language department, and I was able to test out of all 4 semesters, which is nice. But I have friends who were not able to do that and tested out of 3 or 2 semesters, so they don't have to take a year or a semester of the language instead. So that is generally what it looks like for foreign language. It is the one area that Penn takes AP, IB, or SAT2 credit. And you may ask like other areas, oh, I got a 5 on AP Calculus BC, or I got like 800 on SAT2 math. Like, does that count towards anything? Not exactly. Basically, Penn will like see your score and be like, you did a great job. If you don't want to take intro calculus, you could take multivariable calculus. You could take DiffyQ in upper level classes, but you won't necessarily get credit for the like previous test scores. So you're just able to take harder courses. For the writing requirement, it is also a little bit different because all the other courses have many different courses that satisfy it. For the writing requirement, everyone's required to take something called writing seminar, which people normally take freshman year as a good gap between high school level writing and college level writing. So in writing seminar, you learn a lot of things like how to synthesize like in-depth journal articles, how to write a literature review, how to write an opinionated piece, cover letters, resumes, things like that. And what it looks like is there's a writing seminar offered with the same exact format offered across a lot of different topics. So I took one in psychology and babies.
I took mine in the neuroscience of free will.
I took mine in craft of prose.
But you could take it in like how to be popular in social media, the Colbert Report, the old show that Stephen Colbert put on. There's a wide range of different topics, I think over 40. So every given semester you sign up for one you're interested in, you go through the general format of reading articles pertaining to that topic. Like for me, it was developmental psychology, and I'm doing a lot of like writing about that area and doing research in that area. And like I thought it wouldn't really help me much. It's kind of a pain in the butt because you do have a lot of work starting freshman year. Although like as a biochemistry major, like junior year I took genomics and biochemistry. I had to write 20-page reports in a span of a week, and like that background in how to synthesize and write a lot of information was really helpful. So any questions about anything we discussed so far? Yeah.
Yeah, so for each like category, you just have to take like one course. And then
Yes.
that concludes it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's really nice, and one thing we didn't exactly cover is as like a sciences major naturally, I fulfilled the last 3 sector requirements like right off the bat. And a lot of these cross-counted with like formal reasoning and quantitative data analysis. So that was really nice for me. So like I didn't have to go out of my way to do it. Like taking my major courses naturally fulfilled a lot of those. So that is nice, and that goes with any major. So it's like not that much of a burden, I would say.
So like as a humanities major, you would probably fulfill already
The top
at
four.
least, yeah, humanities and social sciences, history and tradition, you would fulfill a couple.
Any other
Anyone else?
questions so far? Cool.
All right. So now the major will probably be the bulk of your classes at Penn. And we do kind of have your typical psychology, biology. We have a lot of majors offered, but we do like to emphasize that we have some pretty unique majors. So our interdisciplinary majors are, for example, PPE, which is philosophy, politics, and economics, BBB, which is the biological basis of behavior, and they're actually some of our most popular majors just because a lot of people like to experiment with subjects across disciplines. And even though a lot of these majors may seem very broad, we do have a lot of classes within those majors so that you can kind of be more specific in what you want to study within each field. So for example, I'm a communications major, but we have concentrations. So I'm concentrating in messages and marketing, but you could do journalism or political communications. Some don't have like strict concentrations, but you can choose from a variety of courses. So for example, if you want to do psychology and you're kind of more interested in social psych, you can take a lot of classes in social psych, but you wouldn't have a specific social psych concentration.
One thing I will say, I know we have at least one pre-med interested in pre-med person in here, but if you are interested in pre-med, my major BBB that she mentioned as an interdisciplinary major, which is actually, just got an email about it this week, officially being changed to neuroscience, mainly so we don't have to spend 2 months saying the name of biological basis of behavior. It really is a mouthful. So that's a nice change, but it's the most popular it's the most popular pre-med major, and I personally love it because interdisciplinary majors here are really cool in that they give you different perspectives to what you're trying to study. So rather than just coming at the things I'm interested in from a purely neuroscientific standpoint, I also get to take classes with the chemistry department, the psych department, the bio department, the chem department, the anthropology department. Took a couple classes in Wharton, and this has been great because it really does track on different perspectives of kind of studying the same behavior. So if I'm studying stress, I can study it from the neurotransmitter, neuroscientific perspective, and out to the behavioral organismal perspective. And that's true of all interdisciplinary majors. They really try and give you a bunch of different perspectives to look at what you're studying. I know we have econ interested people in here, so one thing I will mention is that the econ major in the college differs from the econ major in Wharton, in that in the college it is a little bit more theoretically based, and in Wharton it tends to be more application based. So it's kind of which one you prefer more, you can choose to do.
But also, I know a few of you guys are interested in studying across different schools, like in the College of Wharton or College of Engineering. There are a few dual degree programs that are specifically tailored to that. So you may be interested in looking at programs like Huntsman or LSM or things like that, depending on your specific area of focus. But also, it's not uncommon to get an uncoordinated dual degree. Two of my former roommates actually did that. What it looks like is you're getting a degree from both Wharton or engineering or nursing and the college. So it is more rigorous because you have to fulfill the requirements of both schools separately. And it does require more courses, does require more advanced planning. But if you're interested in doing something like that, and let's say you don't apply to one of those dual degree programs or you don't get into one of them, you can still do it by coming on the campus, talking to your advisor, which we'll talk about later, and seeing what courses you have to do to finish that path and apply to be a double major across schools. And also on this slide, we like to talk about the associated minors because we don't have a dedicated minor slide. But as you saw previously, there's over 80 minors that are offered here. So all of these majors have an associated minor, and sometimes they're more specific. Like you could do social psychology as a minor perhaps, and also minors, maybe, I actually don't know. And minors can also be across schools. So it's not uncommon to get a nutrition minor in the nursing school, to get a computer science minor or associated major in engineering, and to get econ or consumer psychology or one of those minors associated with Wharton, and that also extends to the graduate schools. Like you could get a bioethics minor, which is technically with the graduate school of law here. And another thing I want to touch upon is, as I mentioned in the real beginning, I'm a like 4 years master's student in chemistry as well, so I'm getting that degree right after I graduate this year. And the nice thing about that and like doing all of this is Penn has a one Penn policy where all of the graduate schools, all of the like undergraduate schools, all of the hospitals, all of the like research facilities, everything is on one campus. So everything's within at most a 15-minute walking radius. So like to get a master's degree in chemistry, I take grad classes in chemistry. So I like just walk to the Chem Grad building, take classes there, and I could just walk to my undergraduate class right after and take classes there. So it's really nice. It's open to any area. But yeah.
If I want to study mathematics, what's the difference between math in the college versus in engineering?
That's a good question. I do not know because I know, like, I don't know the major requirements for math in the college or in engineering specifically. I think maybe upper level courses may be different, but I took quite a few math courses here, and I know the intro level, like multivariable, diffie-Q, linear algebra, all of those things. I just take it with engineering students, and there are no like specific courses offered. Maybe the upper level requirements might be a little bit different, and they might be tailored slightly differently. So I do not know specifically, but also if you're getting a major in engineering, there's different engineering requirements in the engineering school versus the college. So that might also be a big difference there.
Yeah, your general education requirements will not be as broad as ours are. If you're in engineering, you'll have kind of more specific and kind of more pertaining to engineering itself in terms of the general education requirements, whereas ours are really just range from kind of all from society, history, math, and science. So.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
But it is important to note that you can take classes in any of the other undergraduate schools and with a lot of the graduate programs. So if you aren't getting a degree in one of those other schools, but you are still interested in taking classes, you definitely still can, and there's no process to, apply to get into these courses. I'm currently in a healthcare management course, and I think over half my class is in the College of Arts and Sciences. So yeah, it's pretty easy.
Any other questions pertaining to majors or courses?
Or anything we've talked about? Cool. Okay, so obviously we have a lot of courses, a lot of degrees going on here, but thankfully we also have a lot of people who are here to help you kind of figure your way through Penn. So at the top left of the screen, you'll see the pre-major advisor and the peer advisor. And these are the first advisors you are formally assigned at Penn. You actually get them before you step foot on campus for your freshman year. And the pre-major advisor I like to think of as the person who's there to acclimate you to academic life at Penn. You're required to have a conversation with them before you can even sign up for classes for your freshman fall. And this is really great for people who know what they want to study, who don't really know how to do things at Penn, all the way to people who have absolutely no idea. All of these pre-major advisors are trained in how to kind of assist students through their finding classes they're interested in and signing up for classes. And then your peer advisor is just an upperclassman who has obviously done this before, who has come to Penn, and they are there to more acclimate you to life at Penn. So this is the person you can shoot random texts to, like, what kind of bed sheets do I need for my bed, and what are the best places to get food around campus, or what kind of clubs are there that I could be interested in. And they also do this really great thing during orientation, right before you start classes. They'll take you on a tour of the university and help you figure out where your classes are and get a lay of the land before you get into classes. Then you have to declare your major by the end of your sophomore year, though you are allowed to declare it before. And when you do declare, you get your major department advisor, and this is just a person who is in your major. They know kind of the upper level classes in that major. They know how to guide you through your last couple years at Penn, and they can even help guide you toward internships, research opportunities, help you figure out what you want to do in a career. And so they're a really great resource for that. And then the bottom half of the screen are kind of more informal resources that you have to seek out on your own. but they're still great in terms of advising. So you'll see that the college office is the first one listed. They're right above us. They're incredible for making sure you're going to graduate on time. So even if you don't want to go into your major advisor, you can go into the college, and they have a really cute dog. His name is Tango. He just runs around. And go to an advisor, and they'll really just sit down, look at your worksheet, and make sure that all your credits are in line. And then you have the career services and mentoring, and they are, I cannot emphasize this enough, they are fantastic. They do a program called on-campus recruiting, which we call OCR, which is essentially every fall, huge name employers will come to campus and we'll do coffee chats and info sessions. They'll interview on the spot, and they can offer you internships over the summer and also job opportunities after graduation. So, I mean, off the top of my head, people who come to campus, employers who come to campus are Amazon, Google, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Deloitte, Disney, Capital One. I could probably go on, but I'll stop there. So they really are huge companies, and they are coming just to look for Penn students, and that's a really great thing to have. And then just in general, if that's not something that you're interested in, career services also has just great kind of mentoring in other aspects. You can send in your resume over email, and they'll email it back to you within about a week, 2 weeks maybe, and with kind of critiques and ways to better improve your resume and how you look as a candidate. They also do mock interviews, so you can come in, they'll ask you some questions, and they'll give you feedback at the end of your session and tell you how you can better improve how you present yourself to employers. They have clothes drives. They have counselors who are just there to come in and talk to you about next steps for, what you're doing in terms of internships for the summer and post-grad opportunities. So they're a really incredible resource to have. And then there's just kind of the campus-wide network, and this is there's the Weingarten Tutoring Center. You can go and get tutoring help. We have CAPS, which is Counseling and Psychological Services. We have the Women's Center. We have a lot of cultural houses. And then just upperclassmen who you meet who can kind of guide you through exactly the process that they were in a couple years ago. And so honestly, that has been one of the most beneficial things for me to have, is those upperclassmen resources that I've found.
Yeah, a few notes specifically pertaining to pre-med track, because I know if you guys are interested in that. Career Services also houses all the pre-graduate school advisors, like the pre-med, pre-vet, pre-law, etc. advisors. So they're definitely a good resource. You're required to meet with them before you apply. You look over everything, and you're required to meet with them periodically in the year leading up to your application. So like their whole job is to get you into the respective graduate school. So they're amazing. And talking about like pre-med culture, I know like at least some people have told me that it may be really toxic. They're like, oh, aren't pre-meds really competitive because all they care about is GPA, and they won't be willing to help others, and they like try to actively sabotage you or things like that. I can't speak about other schools, but at Penn at least I found that not to be the case at all. I'm someone who actively needs help a lot. So a lot of times my friends would message me like the day before or a few days before a test and be like, hey Jonathan, how are you doing in physical chemistry? Like, are you doing well? I'm like, not at all. I have no clue what's going on. Like, I'm super lost. I can't get through any of the problems. And they'll be like, no problem. Like, here are my notes, here are my study guides, here are like problems I really think you should get through. Let me know if you have any questions. Oh, I went to office hours with the professor, and she helped me with this problem, so let me help you with that. So like, they're really like open to help. Like my friends and my peers in the class are really open to helping me without me actively asking for help. So like, I found that like toxicity or lack of collaboration or anything like that, at least at Penn, not to be the case at all. And that's a big reason I chose Penn over some of the other schools.
Also, as to the campus-wide network, it's really nice because a lot of Penn students genuinely do want to help new people out. We get really excited when new people come in, and we do have a lot of like more structured. So if you come in and you're like, oh, I don't know any upperclassmen, but I actually do want advice, a lot of our clubs, frats, sororities have sort of like mentorship, informal mentorship programs. So you get like a big or a grand big, and you have these sophomore, junior, and senior who are just willing to help you out with anything.
Any questions about advising?
Right. So now we're going to talk about integration of knowledge and how you can like apply your knowledge to outside of the classroom. So with research specifically, Penn is a research institution, so a lot of your professors will be conducting research, and they do look for undergraduates to help them out. Now, we don't only have your typical white lab coat research, we also have research in philosophy and political science. We have all kinds of things you can do if you're interested in them. And there are a lot of more formal ways to get into that research. CURF is really helpful, which is the Center for Undergraduate Research and Fellowships. I'm barely
We have a lot
learning
of
the acronyms. And they're really good at finding opportunities for you, either internships, research opportunities, and if you don't have funding, they will help you out, which Grace will talk about a little bit later. And we also have more informal ways to find research, so if you are interested in a specific field and want to email your professor, they will want to help you out. So for me, my research position kind of fell into my lap. I was taking developmental psychology freshman year, and I emailed my professor. I was like, hey, I'm not really sure if I want to do psych. Would you be available to talk a little bit about the major? So she was like, sure, come in. If you're interested in research, you can come to our lab meeting on Monday just to see if you kind of like that track. I attended their lab meeting, and then she kind of invited me to just work full-time at the lab, which was really cool. And it not only gives me kind of experience at a lab and experience doing research in something I'm interested, but it also helps to fund my work study, which is great.
Yeah, and there's over 1,000 labs here at Penn, and I mentioned before, like the one Penn policy, like the hospitals, the graduate schools, everything's right here. That's really great when it comes to research because like the hospitals and the graduate schools are where most of the research are being done. So I could walk 15 minutes to take a class. I could also walk 15 minutes to like go to my lab. So it's really accessible, not like certain schools where you have to travel 30 minutes or an hour to get to the associated graduate school with the labs. Here it's right there. And also just labs, like Fernanda mentioned a little bit, like I do research in dermatology and epigenetics, but you could do research in Huntsman associated with economics. You could do research in the Penn Museum with anthropology. You could do a lot of really great humanities research in the Penn Museum with the archives, Penn Library with the archives and things like that. So just, if you want to do research, there's a lot of avenues of ways to doing research.
And then, so Fernanda talked a little bit about CURF, and I think one of the best things that CURF does for its undergrads is it has a program called PERM, which is the Penn Undergraduate Research and Mentorship Program. And this program is fantastic. It's 10 weeks over the summer. You're matched up with a faculty mentor, and you're doing research with them for all 10 weeks. They have a huge, very extensive directory of all of the professors looking for undergrads for this program, ranging from all different fields. And the nice thing about this is you also get a stipend of $3,500 to $4,000 for those 10 weeks, and it's only open to freshmen and sophomores. So you're not competing with juniors and seniors who may have a leg up on you in terms of research, and it's really just kind of Penn's way of emphasizing getting the younger freshmen and sophomores experience in research. And a lot of times those research opportunities that you get from PERM can end up kind of following into the school year, and you can be at that one kind of position for more than just a summer, which is really nice. But another thing that CURF does is they can also really help with internships, and specifically helping to fund internships. So I had a friend, he's from Baltimore. He got this internship in the San Francisco area, and halfway through his Skype interview for this internship, he found out that it was unpaid. And so he took it back to his parents, and he was like, hey, can I go live in the San Francisco area for, 10 weeks over the summer to do this internship? And they were like, we're not paying for that. That's insane. So he brought it back to CURF, and CURF actually helped him fund that internship. So he was able to go to the San Francisco area, get his internship done, and get all of that, really beneficial experience that he needed to get. But there are also a lot of great ways to find internships. As I was talking about earlier, on-campus recruiting is really great to help find summer internships, and a lot of those summer internships are very nicely paid. But there's also a website we have called Handshake, which I kind of view as this bottomless void of just a bunch of jobs. You can specify it to your interest and find just a ton of internships over the summer, and also postgraduate opportunities. I actually found one that I was really interested in. So I had never been able to go abroad, and I really wanted to have an abroad experience. So I applied to this position over Handshake, teaching English to Italian students for 2 months, which I ended up getting, and I spent the last summer in Italy. So that was a really great opportunity for me, and I got it because of the Handshake website that we have. So that kind of brings me into study abroad. So can I get a show of hands of who might be interested in studying abroad? Yeah? Cool, awesome, yeah. I think all the hands should be up because studying abroad is an incredible experience, and I know that because every single one of my friends who comes back from studying abroad is absolutely insufferable about how amazing their abroad experience was. They just never stop talking about it, and it's like, okay, we get it, you went abroad, we love it. So there are a bunch of different tiers of commitment that you can have in terms of studying abroad. So kind of the lowest tier of commitment we have is a global seminar, and this is actually a class you take during the semester. You learn about a place in the world and a specific topic, very vague because there are a lot of different fields in which you can study and places that you can study about. But essentially during one of your breaks, so if you're doing the fall semester during your winter break, or if you're doing the spring semester, either your spring break or the beginning of your summer break, you will travel with your class to that part of the world that you were studying, and kind of get a more concrete hands-on utility of that information in that place of the world. So that's a really cool kind of opportunity. It's only a couple weeks, so it's not too much if you don't want to be abroad for a lot of time. Then we have a summer abroad, and that can take the form in a couple different ways. You can have a traditional semester just over the summer. We have a really popular one in London, but they're all over the world. But there's also something called GRIP, which is the Global Research and Internships Program. And this actually sets you up with a research or internship position in a different place in the world. So rather than taking classes over the summer, you're doing a research or an internship position. And then you have your classic semester or year abroad. And this can be in any part of the world. We have so many pre-established relationships, but the cool thing is that if there's a place in the world that you want to study and you can't find a program that Penn already has going to that place, Penn will work with you to try and figure out how to send you there. So I have a friend, his grandparents were from a really small town in Nepal, and he really wanted to study abroad in Nepal. So Penn didn't have a program in Nepal, so they worked with him to find another university, and he was able to study where he wanted to study. A really cool thing for the parents, we like to say, about studying abroad is that financial aid will always transfer over, and also the credits will always transfer over. So your student won't have, they'll have the best semester of their life and then come back and realize they have to do that entire semester over again because their credits didn't count. That won't happen. Penn works really, really hard to make sure that those credits do transfer over. One thing to mention is that we do have Penn in Washington. Now that is Washington, D.C. That is not abroad. However, it is a very, very cool semester opportunity during which you go and live at a college campus in Washington, D.C. You have an internship during the day, and you have classes at night taught by kind of really cool, big Washington elites. So that's a really great opportunity. There's another cogno who is currently in Manchester doing a semester abroad, and the next semester will be in Penn in Washington. So he's really taking advantage of these opportunities. So yeah, that is study abroad in a nutshell.
Also, we like to mention service because something that's really nice about Penn is that it really sets us up nicely to sort of interact with the community outside of the Penn bubble. So you do interact a lot with West Philadelphia if you want to do that, and there are a lot of sort of set ways that Penn gives us. So we have the Civic House, the Netter Center, and a direct way to sort of interact with the community through your courses as well, through academically based community service courses, which Jonathan will talk about in a little bit. But what I like to mention is that we don't only interact with our community here, but also if you're an international student, we have a lot of opportunities to interact with our communities back home. So I'm from Mexico, I'm a part of Wharton Latino. You don't have to be in Wharton or Latino to be a part of it. We have students from Brazil, we have students from Colombia, Venezuela. We have EuroPen, which is for European students, and both of those clubs really make an effort to sort of do fundraisers and give back to our communities back home, which is really nice.
Yeah. And academically based community service courses or ABCS courses are something that I like taking advantage of and I really, really loved. So a lot of these extracurricular things, I also do tutoring in West Philadelphia through a club, are just more community service based, but if you want a more formal education on how to help out the community, ABCS courses are a really great way to do that. So the course format normally looks like you like in a specific topic, you get educated on how to be a better educator in that topic. For example, I did it in chemistry and physics. So during my physics ABCS course, I do a lot of reading on research done on like what physics demonstrations works best, like how to tailor to different demographics and which types of demonstrations are the most receptive, things like that. So I do a lot of research and reading into that. I design my own labs, and I go to Robeson High School, which is a high school 20 minutes walking away from here, where they no longer have a physics course offered because of budget cuts in West Philadelphia education, which is terrible. But we go once a week and we try to ameliorate that problem by getting interested students like access to physics and like showing them different cool physics demonstrations, having them talk to us if they want, ask us any questions they want. And that's something that I think is invaluable because I come from a Boston public school system myself. So like I want to give back with a bigger platform like to West Philadelphia public school system, and it's great that I both learn how to be a better teacher and I get to actively practice being a teacher to people who like kind of need it. So I thought that it's a great, and you get credit for it obviously, so because it's a course. So I think it's great.
Does anyone have any questions before we move on to our last slide?
What about real arts at Penn?
So Real Arts at Penn is an avenue. It's not really study abroad, but it can be. But it's basically an avenue that helps set art students up with opportunities like internships and maybe even jobs after graduation. I have a friend who used Real Arts at Penn to, she found an opportunity to work on a film in London. So that is one way that you can utilize it to do study abroad, but it also helps a lot with internships.
Any other questions? And obviously we're going to stay afterwards, like if you have more specific questions for us. But this we like to call the parent slide because it like lets the parents know if your kid comes to Penn, the kid will do well. So we'll kind of tag team this, Grace and I, because we're the two seniors here, and graduation and life after Penn is the thing that's looming for us. But for graduate school, it goes without saying that Penn does well in terms of sending students to graduate schools. There's a growing trend in taking gap years before you enter graduate school. So what it looks like is 20% of the 2017 class applied during their junior year, got their acceptance senior year, and went directly to graduate school right after they graduate from college. But more and more students will take 1, 2, or more gap years before they get into a graduate school. So that is where the 75% go into. So that's a huge percentage. 3/4 of Penn college students go to graduate school. So that kind of shows you that they have a passion for like furthering their education and their specific area of interest. And they do really well.
And then also just talking about fields of employment. So 67% of the college class of 2017 went directly into the workforce. And I will remind you that this is just stats for the College of Arts and Sciences, because if you look up here, you see that consulting, financial services, technology, they're all up there in the top fields that college students go into. And people think that that may be representative of also Wharton and engineering, but it's not. And I think that's just representative of a lot of employers who come to campus and who are interviewing Penn students are looking for a lot of the values that the Penn students are given during their time at Penn inherently. Instead of having exams that solely focus on regurgitating material that you learned in class, a lot of exams ask you to critically think about the material that you are learning on the exam, so it's also in a pressure situation, and you just learn that task during your time at Penn. That's just one example of something that you learn that a lot of employers find very valuable. And then also 43% received their offers through career services through that on-campus recruiting program that I was talking about, and they also do well in terms of employers. And then just one last thing to mention, the top graduate school you'll notice is Penn, and the top employer is also Penn. And that's just kind of, we love our school and we love to keep coming back and keep studying, or keep engaging with the environment and the student population. So that is the end of our formal presentation. We have an email if you have any questions. We also have a website on which we have a lot of blog posts by our members. But now is the time we open it up to questions from you, either about something we talked about in the presentation or anything about life at Penn in general, as we are students and we do know what student life is like. Yeah.
How stressful is like? Because I think you said you had a double minor, right?
Yeah.
Is that pretty crazy or like?
No, it's not at all, actually. The nice thing about minors is that they don't really have much restriction in how they can be counted. So a lot of my minor courses can be counted toward another part of my college experience. So I was taking them already. So as an example, my minor is actually BBB and Health Services Management. So it's with the BBB department. So I have to take 4 classes in the BBB department and 4 classes in healthcare management. Well, I'm a BBB major, so I already have half of that minor done. So I only had to take 4 classes in healthcare management to be a healthcare management minor. And then in terms of medical sociology also, that's my other minor. My intro to sociology class counted toward that minor, and it also double counted as one of my general education requirements. So there's a lot of freedom that you have, and would highly recommend using Excel spreadsheets. They're wonderful in trying to figure it out, but it's definitely not stressful. I have a lot of friends who also do the double minor.
Yeah, and building off of that, Penn is like, on the education side, we kind of had make it your own like text in there, and like I want to stress that that's really, really true. Like certain schools like cap the number of courses you could take, or if you want to take more courses, like it's a more greater financial burden. At Penn, it's not the case at all. You could take as many courses as you want. You could take, I've taken 7 courses a semester when the average is around 4. So like if you really want to challenge yourself more, you could, a lot of places, like Penn offers all the opportunity to do so. So I think that it's great because I wouldn't be able to get my master's degree here if I wasn't able to do that, and a lot of other perks of like, if you have the capability to challenge yourself more, you could do it here at Penn.
Anyone else?
I guess I'll go again.
No.
Do you have a question?
Please do, I'll ask
Okay.
afterwards.
Is it easy to get like internships at like hospitals and stuff?
Yes. So internships at hospital is like, you could definitely do it because define internship, like volunteering positions there,
Or
clinical
whatever it is,
research,
like
or
shadowing a doctor.
oh
or
yeah,
whatever.
definitely. So the great thing about the one Penn policy and all of that is all the Penn hospitals are also right here. I don't know if you guys saw Hub Hospital of Pennsylvania. That is right there. CHOP, which is a children's hospital, is like a block down. Presbyterian, which is a level 1 trauma center here at Penn, is like 10 minutes that way. So they're all really, really centralized, and they're all right here, which is awesome. So that means that a lot of extracurricular clubs offer direct pipelines to shadow at Penn. A few of my clubs do that. I like a kidney disease screening club that I'm in. We offer shadowing opportunities there, but also you could directly reach out to doctors, be like, hey, I'm really interested in what you do. I want to like shadow you or things like that, and they'll be happy to like have you follow along for like a week, a month, or however long. And in terms of clinical research, it's also like really similar. If there's a doctor or researcher doing clinical research you're really interested in, you could just cold email or reach out to them, and they'll most likely be willing to have you help along.
Is your question?
You mentioned the values of the Penn students. Would you, what would you say they are?
I would say critical analysis when given challenging topics is definitely one. I have a class right now, my healthcare management class is on strategies and management in healthcare management, and my professor started the entire first class was just about BS in the healthcare system and how to see it and how to acknowledge it and how to use that as a place of critical analysis. So that's just an example. I would say passion for sure. We're all just a bunch of nerds on this campus. I'm not gonna lie. Everyone just really loves what they're doing, and they have really unique things that they've done, and it's because they're really passionate about what they're studying or what they're doing extracurricularly, and I think that that's something that really makes you a really good candidate. I think you cannot be a Penn student and not be a hard worker. So hard work, I would say, is a value instilled on this campus. Yeah, I mean, those are the top 3 for me. I don't know if anyone has
I would
anything else.
go on with that, but add that even though we are hard workers, I think we do know where to draw the line and like what's healthy for me, when should I stop, when should I focus on my social life, when should I focus on just relaxing. So we do value our leisure a lot and our social life a lot as well, which I think is a really nice mix, especially at an like at an institution like this, you think you're gonna come in and just like worry about school, stay in your dorm all the time studying, and it's definitely not like that at all, which is amazing.
Because it is easy to kind of get into a rut of I have to study this, then I have to study this, then I have to study this. But we've actually had a kind of kick of wellness, and we just had Wellness Week. I think it's actually this week. It was
Yeah.
either this week or last week.
If you're walking around here at like 3, I think, or 4, they're gonna have puppies
Yes.
playing around in the green.
Yeah. So, anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much for coming to the presentation. I hope you enjoy
Thank you.
a brisk walk up and down Locust. But if you have any questions, we're up here. Thank you very much.